Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Chris Jericho has signed a new multi-year AEW contract. MJF has called his shot regarding the AEW World Championship. And on top of that, we have a big Ring of Honor update, the next pay-per-view, and maybe some TV news as well. But of course, we're going to start things off by talking about Hangman Page and his injury status. I'm Andy. This is WhatCulture Wrestling News, flying solo today. Let's get into this Hangman Page stuff, because that's the big story today, of course. Last night's AEW Dynamite, he was facing Jon Moxley in the main event, World Championship on the line. He suffered what looked like a nasty injury. It's since been cleared that this was a concussion. So the wrestling, they go about 15 minutes or so. I didn't have my stopwatch out or whatever, but it was really brisk. It was really hard hitting. I think Moxley was busted open before they even got into the ring. It started outside. There was some brawling. And we got to the point where Moxley was charging with the Bulldog Lariat. That is always, such an impactful move because both guys usually go colliding into each other. And a total accident happens here. Hangman goes down. He's limp pretty much as soon as he hits the mat. He goes stiff, and immediately it looks like a worrying situation. Now, referee Paul Turner is immediately on top of this situation, checking on Hangman, seeing what's going on. He calls AEW medic Dr. Michael Sampson into the ring. Moxley backs off while the officials do the necessary checks, and just a few seconds later, really, the match is called off. It's a referee stoppage. Hangman unable to continue, and the match is called in Jon Moxley's favour. After this, Hangman is stretchered out. It's reported by Dave Meltzer, or he's confirmed, on Twitter, that he was at least able to flash a thumbs up to the crowd as he was being stretchered out, Hangman was. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything with regards to injury status, but it's always, at the very least, a little bit reassuring. So, yeah, a worrying scene playing out here for sure, but there's more to it. Further details have emerged. There was all kinds of reports from all kinds of outlets coming through about Hangman being taken to hospital. Fightful were on top of the coverage, PW Insider as well. But AEW eventually came through with a statement, which is good because a lot of people were really worried about this real situation and the way Hangman kind of went down. I'll read their statement to you. Hangman Adam Page was taken tonight by medical personnel to a Cincinnati trauma center and diagnosed with a concussion. He was discharged but will remain in AEW's concussion protocol. AEW and Hangman Page are grateful for the exemplary response and care of staff and local medical personnel and are appreciative of the love and support of his fans everywhere. So yeah, if you've been on social media or Reddit, which aggregates all this kind of stuff, you'll have seen responses from all kinds of wrestlers, ranging from MJF to people who aren't even in AEW, just wishing Hangman well. And we echo that sentiment, of course. Look, it's a young guy, young family. I just had a kid, of course, took time off for that. It's always nasty seeing people go down this way, but particularly when it's someone in Hangman's situation with that family, with, he's a young dude as well. He's younger than me. All the best to him. Hope his recovery is swift. And hope his concussion isn't too bad. These things are extremely variable. You can be concussed and be out for a couple of weeks, or you can be concussed and never wrestle again. Not to raise anyone's worry on things like this, but they are, like I said, extremely variable. So we wish him all the best. The medical team did a great job in their response. This wasn't they were right on top of it. Dr. Michael Sampson was in there. Turner did his job excellently. Chris Nowinski actually tweeted. He, of course, former wrestler, leading concussion research guy. He's the co-founder of the Concussion Legacy Foundation. He tweeted, "Sending positive thoughts to Hangman. This was not a high-risk move, Something went wrong. Referee Paul Turner is trained to recognize a concussion or a possible neck injury and stopped the match. Dr. Sampson was ringside and there in seconds. Gives us the best chance for a good outcome." So yeah, man, once again, just, credit to the team for responding so swiftly and decisively. All the best to Hangman. Hope this isn't too severe. Really worrying situation nonetheless. And hopefully he's back before long because it's just a rough time. We're going to move on to another AEW story. Lots of AEW stuff on today's video. Chris Jericho's signed a new deal with the company, 3 years. He is, of course, a day one guy in AEW. He was the first world champion, Le Champion. Loved that reign, loved that era. But yeah, AEW broke this news. They issued a statement Big press release came out yesterday, but it was covered by Variety as well. It was, timed. They had the exclusive. But yeah, Jericho's going to be there until December 2025 at the absolute, earliest. Who knows if he'll sign another new deal a couple of years from now. But as well as being an in-ring, on-screen talent, he's going to take on increased responsibilities behind the scenes as well as a producer and creative advisor. So I think, there's some comments from Tony Khan, some comments from Jericho himself as well. All positive, all good. I think, sometimes Jericho's creative isn't for everybody, particularly last year. A lot of, mixed reviews of some of the stuff he was putting out there, I think it's safe to say. But at his very best, he's been a massive compliment to the program. Le Champion was excellent, key in establishing the AEW World title as an important thing that needs to be won. And in 2022, he's had some really great matches as well, with guys like Eddie Kingston. I thought he was great in the six-man tag that opened Forbidden Door. Bunch of great stuff. You can sit here and go, he shouldn't have beaten Eddie here, and maybe he shouldn't have beaten Bryan Danielson there. But at the same time, you can see why AEW invests so much stock in him. He's been a very important figure for that promotion, and of course, as someone who's so tenured in wrestling, he's been doing this for like 500 years, certainly about as long as I've been alive anyway. You can see what he'd have to pass down to the next generation as well in that backstage role. So positive news across the board for me. MJF last night on Dynamite, he called his shot for the AEW World Champion. He is, of course, he's got the chip. He's the man with the chip. He returned it all out. He won the casino ladder match. Almost called it the Battle Royale there. Different match, Andy, you dummy. He won that as the Joker baby, in the words of Michael Sidgwick. And he's been holding on to it ever since. He's been teasing the cash in. We've seen him in the rafters, in the suite, holding on to this thing, checking his phone, hamming it up, loving life. Calling the shots, but he actually straight up called it last night. We got a lengthy in-ring segment from him and William Regal. It was tremendous stuff. If you want my full thoughts on that, check out my review, AEW Ups and Downs, on the website. I do the written version. Simon Miller does the video version. Good stuff. Two different perspectives on what was a good show. Injury issues aside, of course. So that kind of spurred what came later in the evening. It was all about MJF feeling let down by Regal, who didn't follow up on the tryout he had in WWE, and Regal going, you shortcut your way to the top all the time. Don't do that. Earn it. Earn it, dude. Later, MJF comes out after Page versus Moxley. Shirt off, fired up. I'm going to earn it. I'm calling my shot now. Me and you, full gear. I'm going to win that belt from you. Seemingly fair and square. Moxley cut a little promo afterwards. But yeah, it's an example of taking that lengthy in-ring promo and using it to deliver something later in the night. It's kind of this one-night storyline that will now become a multi-week, multi-show storyline. Obviously, quality is in the eye of the beholder, but I thought this was excellent. And again, want my in-depth thoughts on that, check out the article. Probably uploaded around about the same time as this video, so it'll be waiting for you. And in our final proper news story of the day, let's talk about Ring of Honor a little bit. This has been an interesting topic online recently. I think, Ring of Honor has 6 championships. They're on AEW TV. AEW represents Ring of Honor a lot. You get guys like Bobby Cruz and Ian Riccaboni coming over to do commentary and ring announcing. You get former personnel are on screen. You've got guys like Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli calling back to their days in that company. Ring of Honor's everywhere, and some would argue that this is to the detriment of AEW, log jams the programming a little bit. I think it's an interesting conversation, but there's some positive news here that will maybe ease things up a little bit. First of all, Final Battle 2022. That's going to be the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and the third since Tony Khan took ownership of the brand in March. It goes down on the 10th of December. It's a Saturday. Special 4 p.m. start time. Maybe they're trying to avoid clashing with the UFC that day. Maybe they're not. Maybe they just want to have an early afternoon show. Who knows? But it's going down then. 10th of December. This was announced on last night's Dynamite. Good stuff for me. Supercard of Honor and Death Before Dishonor this year were both really good, so I'm looking forward to this. Should be fun. Now, also, interestingly, Tony Khan was interviewed yesterday by Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso. You've probably been sitting here wondering for a while, man, what are they going to do with Ring of Honor? Are they getting TV? What's going on? Where's the announcement? Chiefs, what's happening? Well, Tony said this. He didn't full on announce a TV show or anything like that, but he did say, and this is a quote, We'll have great news soon about Ring of Honor weekly shows. The success of Death Before Dishonor on pay-per-view has ensured there will be more Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Our goal is to have one more great Ring of Honor pay-per-view in 2022 and then follow up with a weekly show in 2023. So there you go. Final Battle is that one final pay-per-view of 2022, unless they do one on like New Year's Eve or something, which they're not going to do, obviously. And then maybe some news regarding a TV show will be forthcoming, whether that's a full-on network show or if it's like a YouTube thing, who knows? We'll find out soon. I think this is a move in the right direction, however. And our first question actually revolves around Ring of Honor. So let's move over to those. For this week's questions, we did something a little bit different. We didn't call on Twitter, as we do every other day. We used our community page on YouTube. And we got a great response to this. So who knows? Maybe it's something we'll do more often. But we'll be back with Twitter tomorrow. Don't worry about that, guys. If you follow us on Twitter, if you interact us there, we'll get you the rest of the week. But moving over to the comments from the YouTube community section. Our first question here comes from Winfield Moslington, who asks the following. If, as many of us hope, the heavy Ring of Honor involvement in AEW programming is simply a holding pattern pending a forthcoming TV deal, once the brand splits off, would you have any cross-pollination of rosters like trades, call-ups, super shows, or would you have a total clean break? Also, question for Andy, is the Eel a heel? Yes, he is, because he didn't show up for work today. Total prick, the Eel's brother, the Eel. But yeah, to get to your question, hopefully a TV show is coming. And hopefully this is just a holding pattern, because I think AEW programming could definitely use a bit of breathing space that would be enabled by maybe some of the Ring of Honor content going from Dynamite and Rampage onto its own thing. I think that would be very beneficial to both shows, although I think it's an important debate to have as well. Do wrestling fans have room in their schedule, time, patience, all of that to dedicate to another weekly wrestling show? We'll find out if this thing comes to life. Anyway, for me, I would prefer that these things are kept relatively separate. I think we've had a lot of mixing recently, and it hasn't necessarily been good. Although there's definitely been some good stuff in there. I love Warjo, for example, even though you could argue that it's not great for the Ring of Honor TV and AEW TNT titles. But there's some good and there's some bad, and I think if you kept them separate, that would clear that up. You have Ring of Honor over here, you have AEW over here. Maybe once a year, or every now and then, or whatever, you can send people back and forth. But I certainly wouldn't do it as like a formal draft or anything like that. I would keep them separate. I would let Ring of Honor establish its own clear identity, let it be its own thing, let it feel like something separate and independent from Dynamite and Rampage. I think that's key for its success. It has to feel fresh and different. But, a yearly super show a la Forbidden Door or whatever you want to call it would be a lot of fun. Because if they're kept separate, you're going to have an appetite to see Ring of Honor wrestlers face AEW wrestlers because they don't interact a lot. That's how I would do it, but I'm not a billionaire wrestling promoter. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Moving on to our second question today, comes from Wernick Nagel, who asks, how long do you think it will take for this new Bray Wyatt story to really start taking shape and we know what kind of trajectory it's going in? So, yeah, I've thrown this in here because there's a lot of interesting discussion going around surrounding Bray Wyatt, and he's clearly attracting a lot of interest to the WWE product at the moment as well. I think that in-ring promo that he delivered on Friday was really like a sharp turn. I don't think many would have expected him to kind of show up as Bray Wyatt, the guy, as like Wyndham Rotunda. And then kind of unpack some human stories and the things he's been going through for the past year, and then bring it back to the wrestling program with the mask stuff on the Titantron. I'm not laughing because I think it sucked or anything, don't get me wrong. I'm into this, man. It's fun. I think this is going to be a slow burning thing. I don't think they're going to jump into any crazy wackiness straight away. I think they're going to play with the struggle within this guy. That was certainly the implication coming out of this segment, with the Titantron, the mask, all of that good stuff coming into play late on. So I don't think he's going to go for the world title or anything like that. I think he's going to be his own separate thing. I think they're going to try and hope this continues as like a drawing thing out with the Roman Reigns picture, because it has been so far. The big question with this is whether or not they can continue to keep that momentum going. Certainly hope so. Want all companies to do well, man. It's a good thing across the board. So, yeah, I think it'll be kind of like an internal struggle type storyline for Bray. I don't necessarily see titles or anything like that being involved, but I do see it the intent will be to make it a marquee, I think. And I hope they're able to establish that, because the more big things that are going on that we can talk about and that we can discuss and we can debate, and merits, good and bad, and all of that stuff, it's healthy. It's healthy for wrestling. And the good thing, once again, about Triple H being in charge is that you can have these conversations in earnest now without going, oh yeah, Vince will ruin this. So yeah, there you go. That's my take on it, on Bray Wyatt and his situation. And our final question from YouTube today is from John, who says, what do you think of WWE getting rid of gimmick pay-per-views / premium live events? So I threw this one in here because I haven't really had the chance to talk about it since the kind of end of day one and all of that stuff. Look, I'm entirely in favor of this. I've been kind of a notable critic, I would say, of WWE's approach to the gimmick pay-per-view. Something like Hell in a Cell, for example. I would much prefer that arose as a product of real organic hatred. Like, you have this incredible feud, it's going on, these people really love each other, and you book a Hell in a Cell match to settle it because they have to, because this is the escalation, because you need this stipulation. It's the only thing that could justify how much these two parties just don't like each other and want to tear each other apart. Not because it's an obligation on a calendar. That makes things feel artificial to me and unorganic. When you get to October or whatever, it's obviously not in October, and go, oh yeah, we need Hell in a Cell now because it's in 4 weeks, so you guys have to have a match. To me, it feels realer. It feels better across the board. It leads to better storytelling. So I'm in total favor of this. I'm not saying you should do away with like Royal Rumble and Survivor Series and stuff like that. Obviously, those are classic pay-per-views at those time of year. But yeah, totally in favor of this. Bring back some old brands. Why not? Why not? I mean, I'm a nerd. Give me whatever, Armageddon or Fully Loaded, or I don't know. There's all kinds of concepts you could play with. Maybe King of the Ring. That'd be cool, actually. But yeah, I'm in favor of the pay-per-view reshuffle. And WWE's a good pay-per-view company. The shows are brisk. Typically, even when weekly TV hasn't been as great, and it has been for the past few months. Don't get me wrong. But during the latter stages of the Vince era, when TV was, up and down, it's fair to say the pay-per-views were usually pretty cool. So, it's not a major complaint of mine, but it is one I've had for a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing it being addressed. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this solo video. I got no mates today. It's really quite sad. At work and in real life. But hey, it's been a good time across the board. You can follow me, you can follow us first of all, on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. You can follow me at Andy H. Murray. Twitter questions tomorrow. Don't worry, I'll put a thread up. It'll be a good time. We'll have a party. Everyone love everyone. Be nice. Don't be weird. You can follow me on Twitter, Andy H. Murray. Have I already said that? I think I'm going crazy talking to myself here. The H today stands for, hey, it's presenter roulette this week, isn't it? We got a Hamflet yesterday. Maybe we'll have Sidgwick tomorrow. Maybe Phil. Maybe the Eel. Maybe the Fiend. Bobby Fish. Who knows who's going to show up in this studio while Wilborn is on holiday. But it's been a good time. Bye.